Hey Pitmasters, welcome to another episode, and today we're gonna do a steak experiment. There are these theories about a frozen steak being better than a room temperature steak. But I always tell people a room temperature steak is the best way to grill your steak. I want to know once and for all what the best way is. Is it the best way to grill a steak out of the freezer? The best way to grill it out of the fridge? Or do we want it to grill a steak when it's at room temperature? I got a beautiful cut of entrecot right here. We're going to cut it up into steaks and then we're going to put one in the freezer, one in the fridge and leave one at room temperature. We're going to grill it and find out which one is the best. I'm just going to clean up this entrecot. Yeah, that's perfect. And I'm going to cut these 2 fingers thick. There we go. That's a beautiful steak. So I'm gonna put one of these steaks in a bag. I will put this steak into the freezer. And we want it as nice and flat as possible, so when a frozen steak hits the grill, then we get a good searing surface. We'll put one steak in a bag for the fridge and one steak in a bag to leave at room temperature. So as a part of this experiment, I want to measure the amount of weight loss that takes place. So I'm going to get out my scale and we're going to weigh these steaks before we're going to put them in the freezer. Steak for the freezer. So the steak for the freezer is 312 grams. And the steak for the fridge, 286 grams. And then at room temperature, 287 grams. So there we go. One room temperature, one fridge, and one frozen. So let's measure the temperatures just to make sure that we have these at the right temperature. There we go. The room temperature steak. It's 17.9 degrees Celsius. This is the fridge steak. And that's 8.3 degrees Celsius. And now comes the hardest part. Measuring our freezer steak. Frozen to minus 1.4. Now all we have to do is grill the steaks and find out what changes and if there is a difference between the temperature which you start grilling your steak at. I got my Kamado Joe Big Joe set up with an indirect zone and a direct zone with a cast iron grill grate for searing. So what we're going to do is put these steaks on after we put a little bit of oil on to make sure they don't stick to the grill. Okay, we'll put the frozen steak on first. This is the refrigerated steak and this is the room temperature steak. There we go. They all have a nice bit of grill mark on the bottom and on the top, so we're going to move them over to indirect side. So this is 46 degrees Celsius. Our fridge is 39. And now the freezer, 27. So we're aiming for a temperature that's around 54 degrees Celsius. That's 53.67. Yeah, it's running close to 54. So we're getting off the steak at 54. That's what we're going to do with all of them. So this is our room temperature steak. It's done. We're checking on the fridge temperature steak. See if it's done. Yeah, oh, definitely time to get off. Let me check, double check for just to be sure, to be safe. Yeah, time to get it off. Doing a quick check. Yeah, 54, time to come off. So they all were on until they reached the core temperature of 54 degrees Celsius. Our room temperature steak has been resting for 5 minutes now, so we're going to weigh it and see how much weight we have left. 228 grams. So the finished weight is 228 grams. So what we're going to measure our refrigerated steak. 213 grams. So the finished weight is 213 grams. Time to measure our last steak. 252 grams. So we lost 20% on our room temperature steak. We lost 25% on our refrigerated steak, and we lost 20% on our frozen steak. That is not a lot of difference. Now, if we look at the outside of the steaks, they all have the same amount of caramelization. So for caramelization, it doesn't matter. So let's slice into these steaks and take a look. I'm looking for the difference in between the steak on how much crispiness we get on the outside, how much gray we get, and then the amount of red that's left. So theoretically we should have more red and less gray with the frozen steak. And that's right. You can clearly see that we only have a little bit of gray here. In the refrigerated steak we have a little bit more gray area. At the room temperature steak we have the most amount of gray area. So we're going to put these steaks on top of each other and hope that we can see the difference. On the bottom we have the frozen steak. Then we get the refrigerated steak. And on top we have our room temperature steak. Of course we need to taste this as well, right? And I like a little bit of salt on my steak, so I'm just going to put just a little bit of salt on the board. First I'm gonna try the frozen steak. Definitely a juicy steak, nice and crispy on the outside. That's a good steak. Next is the refrigerated steak. There actually is a little bit of difference between our frozen steak and our refrigerated steak. So now we're getting to our room temperature steak. And again, the texture of the room temperature steak is even a little bit tougher and drier than our refrigerated steak. You know, I'm really excited about the outcome of the steak test because I wasn't convinced that freezing a steak made any sense compared to room temperature. But now that I grilled the steak, there's the textural difference that actually makes the difference. Because the amount of gray that we have in our room temperature steaks makes it a little less tender. So the outcome of this test is actually that if you want to get the best possible result out of your steak, you have to freeze it. Am I going to freeze it every time I'm going to grill steak? No, I don't think so. But hey, the test proved to me that the texture is the best when you grill a frozen steak. Wow, what a surprising outcome, right? Hey, thank you for watching this video. If you liked it, leave me a big thumbs up, a comment down below, and if you want to support this channel, click on the Patreon link in the video description and find out how to support it. See you guys next time. Until then, eet smakelijk!